thinking when I was reading it.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
are we ready to start?
I think we are.
Okay. So, hey guys.
Hey, y'all.
It is been a while.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
to put it lightly.
Yeah, it's been a while. Life has happened. A lot of things in life.
Yeah.
Everything happens so much.
Everything happens so much. I'm readjusting the mic.
Of course, ebooks was so right.
A little closer to Libby, I feel. Since I'm kind of leaning forward, she's leaning back.
Yes,
on
my ice pack.
Yeah, I want to make sure that it's
Thanks.
even audio for everybody.
Thanks.
Okay, so quick intro. I'm sure you're not used to our voices anymore. This is Ash.
This is Libby.
And this is Two Messes from Texas.
Yes. And this one is actually our Gets Deep episode where we want to talk about certain topics more in depth. Mm-hmm. These are topics that we already discuss between the two of ourselves in frank, everyday, candid life. But we figure some of the topics are pretty relevant in terms of the Eastern music world and the culture that goes along with being a fan, yes. In particular today. But in this one, we're going to kind of start off on that note specifically. What is a fan? What makes a fan? Yeah. And all the caveats that come with that.
Yeah. And also, I think what we'll probably talk a little bit more about with this one is kind of being more of kind of what describes a real fan, and highlighting the importance of being it's okay to not love everything that your faves put out. It doesn't make you a bad fan. It doesn't mean you love them any less. And you can also criticize your favorites.
Yep.
And that's okay too.
Yep. You're allowed to have grievances.
Yeah.
You are not, the moment you become a fan, you are not signing a contract saying, I'm going to ride or die for them. I'm going to be a shooter for them. Of course, some people feel that way, and more power to you. You are allowed to. But, there's a lot that goes into fandom spaces, and I think you and I in particular have a certain viewpoint along with a lot of other people in our generation, considering we grew up on the internet and we grew up in fandom culture as it evolved with the internet and as things became more accessible. To really date ourselves, we were on things like LiveJournal and Zanga, and oh my gosh, I am blanking on the website name. I can see it perfectly in my head right now. Oh my gosh. Dream Journal or something like that. And we have been in spaces back when blogs were really a thing, and that is, to be honest with you, that's how I prefer fandom spaces, because I really enjoy the fact that blogs can have more linear discussions, even if it occurs months apart, because you can have kind of a link chain for everything going on in that discussion and have discussion topics grouped. I remember going back through pages of stuff. We've been on the internet looking at these things since literally since like 9 or 10 years old. Yeah. So we've grown up in fandom spaces, and now that we are not only adults, but we are, we're no longer 20s. We're 30.
30.
And then we see younger people in fandom spaces, and it's interesting for us because I can remember a lot of things about that age being in a fandom space, but the internet is such a different landscape that it is a different beast now.
It really is.
But we got to grow up with it with a different set of rules in a lot of ways,
right,
versus now.
Right.
Now, you are not allowed to criticize stuff, or it feels that way.
It feels that way.
And again, I'm only speaking for my own opinion. I'm not saying that this is fact ironclad. Please don't come for me saying I'm wrong because you've seen people who do criticize their faves online. I'm talking as a general brushstroke, especially in certain stan spaces, people feel like if you don't like everything your artist puts out, or if you criticize anything about them, you don't truly love them or you hate them.
Right. 100%. And so I think, you know, what I'm going to do on my end is, I think it's important to identify initially why fandom is such an impactful entity.
I agree. And that kind of includes defining a fan.
Yes. And so, I'm going to take it a little, so I'm a research hoe. You'll come to find with these Gets Deep episodes. I love research. I think it's a very valuable tool. And so I will research everything, and especially with these kinds of more human experiences, because I'm not researching for you know, a journal, or I'm not researching for like a paper to submit to a college professor or something like that. You know, I actually enjoy being able to research from everything from, you know, a 17 magazine article all the way up to a scholarly sourced article, you know, that was submitted to a journal. So I do enjoy the whole range.
Oh yeah.
And even things like Reddit threads and, you know, just Twitter threads and things like that. This is where, especially for this type of a conversation, you're going to get a lot of that true interaction and a lot of true source material.
It's like firsthand account.
Exactly.
And it's also testimony for what people have either experienced or seen themselves in spaces that you aren't in.
Exactly.
And what's really interesting about it is that for the most part, there's a pretty across the board consensus for a lot of it.
Exactly. And so, you know, with identifying fandom and fans, a lot of this is going to be textbook kind of stuff. It's going to be a lot of research based off of, you know, actual scholarly sourced things.
Yeah.
But some big names, so fan cultural studies is actually a thing.
And I wish I would have known about that when I was in college, because I absolutely would have dived into that.
It's so fascinating.
I would have so been on board with that.
Yeah. So for those of you who are younger, if you happen to be listening to this, that's truly a thing. It's actually something to look into if this is something that you're actually interested in. Studying media fandoms and things like that. And also studying the difference between past fandoms and how it's grown from having to trade physical text of like books and journals and magazines to
a la Star Trek,
truly, and having the only way to being able to interact with fans like yourself, like in your communities and social spaces, was through letters or was through fan conventions.
Right.
You couldn't do what we can do now, which is hop on Twitter or hop on a Discord and have your likeness found in a social space, which I think is both great and terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely not only a double-edged sword, but it's, the internet in general is Pandora's box. You really open it and you get every single iota of humanism.
Correct.
Potentially possible.
Right.
And there's some great things that the internet allows in terms of fan communicating spaces. I mean, just thinking in recent stuff, and of course this is by no means limited, but whenever fans try and help each other find resources in order to book tickets for things, in order to go enjoy a concert, or telling them where they can get like just having that kind of crowdsource reference, and you can have it with fellow fans that you either already talked to or they're already discussing it, and then you can go find it. Saves you the work of having to look for it, or potentially buying something that's a skeevy deal and losing money out of it and then being disheartened over it. But then you also see a bunch of things that you don't necessarily want or need to see to a certain extent.
Right.
Human beings were not meant to consume so many people's opinions from all over
Right.
the world all the time, every single day.
Right.
It definitely, there's a reason people do social media breaks, because it is fatiguing in that sense.
Very much, yeah. It's very taxing.
Yes.
But so because fan cultural studies is a real thing, we have some, and obviously, I mean, now it's kind of scary because it was established more or less, the concrete textual sources and foundations were established in 1992. So we know that 30 years ago. So it's pretty recent.
Yeah.
But Henry Jenkins and Jolie Jensen published works separately.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and they've since published many works that they've touched on topics all the way from popular culture all the way to like country music. I mean, they have a very wide range, and they're great writers. They're funny and they're slapstick but they're still also delivering information.
Yeah.
And they're just fantastic. I highly recommend starting with them if you want to do some further digging on your own. But they are often cited in a lot of the works and like scholarly journals and things that if you ever do some research on your own for fan cultural studies, they're often cited.
That's very interesting.
So they are a really good place to start, just to do some general information.
That makes sense.
But the start of fans, it's literally stemming from the word fanatic. And it started, I believe, in like the 17th century or something in England. And it was from the time of its birth. It was always associated with somebody, with someone that had a passion.
Yeah.
It was directed towards a focus. And so the term was originally identified, they originally identified religious zealots. Then it moved and transitioned to identifying sport lovers.
That was a big one that I was going to mention.
Yeah, particularly baseball, actually, was the initial.
Very interesting.
And then it went on to music and film audiences. And so, socially, just in general, socially, we know fans are classified as generally obsessive, crazy, loud, obnoxious, and then
shrill.
Yeah, and
a lot of terms that they also use to an extent describe women.
Well, and I was gonna say, and maybe even overwhelmingly nerdy, aggressive, or female.
Yep.
Depending on what you're a fan of.
Correct.
And that's the real big caveat there, because, if you're a sports fan, you're typically a aggressive male.
Right.
Say you're a sci-fi or a video game fan, you're typically nerdy.
Right.
Again, also male. But say, you're a boy band fan, or in this instance, a K-pop fan.
Right.
You skew female.
Right.
So it really just does depend on what your hobby is and what that hobby is, if it's worth being a fan of that hobby.
Right. And I love that it's also dictated by what other people think is
100%
worth diving into. Because, I mean, we know and say it. I mean, people, not to get too, I mean, this is a good steep episode, so we can get deep. But whenever people compare, for example, protest to social inequality, especially here in America, I'm speaking from an American perspective. When people compare protest for social inequality and the response from authorities versus when fans who either win or lose a game, like the Super Bowl, going off and freaking out and trashing the city, that's considered acceptable to a much larger margin of people.
Right.
To have that kind of reaction and that kind of passion and zealot energy for something that they're fans of. It's acceptable for that. Right. But God forbid anyone did that for something that was serious, like social injustice.
Right.
But even peeling back that layer a little bit, looking at if K-pop fans, since that's what we're discussing, ever did anything like that after a concert.
Unreal. All bets off.
I don't even know, like, they might try and ban Korean music.
Like, I was gonna say all bets off. Like, that would be, like...
They're corrupting the youth.
I was gonna say, like, I don't even want to think about the undertones.
Same.
Of, like, horrific, disgusting things that could come from that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of, like you said, undertones that go into the response for that as well. So maybe it wasn't the best comparison to make, but it's just one of those things that I always think about, the fact that sports fans, especially in Western Americanized view, are allowed to go to any lengths or extremes. No one blinks when someone sees a jersey number or a Super Bowl trophy tattooed on a guy. They just say, oh, they're a really big fan. Or maybe they mock him if they don't like the team. But no one looks at that person, or general consensus, quote unquote. Society does not look at that person and ridicule them.
Right.
But if someone saw a giant, especially more female skewed media consumption piece tattoo on a woman for certain fandom things, that is immediately up for ridicule.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I think that's something we're going to go into deeper in another episode.
Agreed. Yeah.
About, you know, socially, why is it socially acceptable for X instead of Y? And yeah, I think we have an episode for that kind of laid out already.
We do. This is just dipping our toes into that discussion, but it does relate to it.
It does, and it's a big question, and it's definitely it's definitely got some history there, and you know, I think to go back a little bit more on the kind of the whole idea of why fandom and fans are such an impactful entity, especially in our sphere of K-pop and Eastern music. Fandoms are such a large force because we are literally consumerism.
Exactly.
We are literally the consumer.
Correct.
And, you know, we buy the albums. So many of the, like, so many albums.
So many photo cards. So many, literally insert any kind of consumer product you can for Korean artists.
Buy the songs digitally on any music platform.
Yep.
The tour tickets, the fan meets, the merch, online concert VODs, the exclusive TV shows like In the Soup, or any of their like behind the scenes.
Yep.
Like any of those are all you have to pay for. The bubbles.
Yeah.
The season's greetings and the fan clubs. You know what I mean? And those are yearly renewals.
The merch.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. The merch, the light sticks.
Yeah.
The, you know, any of the exclusive, like, you know, little concert MDs or whatever. Like, any of that. And this doesn't even include the fact that the fandom are streaming music, watching them videos constantly and all the time, sharing the content with all of the friends, all of our friends, anyone who will listen, and sometimes even those who won't.
Correct.
And voting on award shows or creating our own content.
Yeah. And
so it's just a little bit of a powerhouse.
Absolutely agreed.
And so, but this, and you know, of course, I was speaking with these specifics to the Eastern fandom, right, of the Eastern world.
Right.
But that's not to say that the fan in general is not also this in the Western world or anywhere.
Absolutely correct.
They are consumerism.
Yep.
Right. And so,
especially in this day and age.
Correct. But I think because of the intensity of the K-pop fandom, and
it's notorious.
Yeah. And and how important the fandoms are to the groups and the artists they support, because we do all of these things and we pay for so much as a consumer. There's that sense of entitlement there. There's that sense of potential ownership there. There's that sense of loyalty there. And so, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because you are way more involved than I am, but I feel like Western fans are more passive with supporting their artists. They're less involved, and they're more willing to move on from artists, like from one to another. They're like less attached, maybe.
I would agree with you to an extent, because of course, and there's caveats for each thing,
right?
Of
Naturally.
course. But for really big groups, for example, or really big solo artists, like you have your Beyoncés, your Lady Gagas, you have your Rihannas, you have your Nicki Minaj's. Like Nicki Minaj's fandom in particular is pretty notorious. Same with Beyonce's. Like there are certain exceptions to the rules. However, for the most part, if you go to concerts for a lot of Western artists, there are definitely more passive listeners who enjoy the sound and care more about the sound versus necessarily the artist as an individual that they want to support. I mean, there's plenty of times I've been at different Western artists and I hear someone behind me who's just like, yeah, I like 2 or 3 of their songs. Thought I'd come here. It's like, wild.
Yeah.
Such a departure versus people showing up at Eastern shows, not only with their light sticks or their different types of merch, but waiting in line forever in order to get as close as possible. For example, you know, doing countdowns, doing all these different things. Whereas, and maybe it's because the Western world maybe has such a, not to say Eastern music doesn't have a saturation, but maybe there's been such a fanatic saturation with different fandom spaces in the Western world, at least that we know about for so long, that some people, whenever they listen to music, it's more of a passive background thing versus I'm listening to my person, my group that I adore.
I see.
At least that's what I think. And I could be wrong, but I definitely, I mean, again, there are tons of people who have playlists where they adore the artists and they adore certain songs. But I feel, especially because Western music in the past 20 to 30 years has skewed more towards what's going to get on the radio, what's going to be a number one, what's going to make charts versus what makes sense as an album whole for like a work of music.
Right.
That we've departed from that. Like I remember Prince complaining about that a lot, and that it really bugged him as an artist, as someone who was proud of the music he put out. It was disappointing that the record labels and the entity heads that run the music industry have focused and pivoted towards what's going to make more views on YouTube or TikTok now, what's going to get more airstreams on Spotify, they care more about those data and numbers. They care more about hits versus pieces of work that is coherent. And Eastern music does care about charting and things like that, but I definitely feel they care more about the artist's color and staying true to their color, or maybe even developing their color palette. And so because of that, it's harder or it just doesn't happen as often where Western fans love an entire work to go to that level of fanaticism.
Yeah, I would say in my opinion, I feel like Western artists or Western fans, I'm sorry, there's a looser sense of duty almost, or like of responsibility, of involvement. So it doesn't necessarily feel like there's a collaboration with the Western artist the way it does with an Eastern artist.
Definitely.
Like, based on the fandom system that's in place. Like, because I feel like with Eastern artists, it does feel like a true experience when you have with them. And that's not even just so much musically, because I feel like it's a different experience entirely, because you have the visuals, you have you have the performance aspect that you're not getting with Western music. You have, there's just so much that goes into it to make it an immersive
experience.
Yeah. And so I think maybe that's probably why, because they invest so much into their craft, the fans in turn invest so much into the artist
and take it very personally for certain things when they think that their artist or their person is slighted, especially if you connect with the music because it helps you through a tough time in your life, or it makes you feel seen or heard. You get very, very protective.
Yeah, that's very true. And, yeah.
But there's still people, and people make mistakes.
100%.
All the time.
100%. And so I think, you know, with the new, I say new, with the more evolved way of fandoming, you know, with Twitter Spaces and, you know, I can't even say TikTok, really. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of discourse happening on TikTok, is there?
Actually, you would be surprised. Sometimes when people post videos, there will be... I've seen some before where I see a video and I just see tons of crap in the comments, and then the creator turns off comments after some time.
Wow.
Because a fan cam that they upload, or something that they thought was funny that they upload, or they upload something and maybe it's either not full information or it's
like a bad take or something.
Yeah, or even if it's a good take, but fans don't want that take out there. I have seen people before either delete their video, hide or remove comments, or they post a follow-up video apologizing for stuff.
Okay, so TikTok.
TikTok is on there, I think, and Instagram too.
Yeah, Instagram for sure. I notice Instagram's kind of the place to go where people need to apologize.
Absolutely. And then whenever there's an apology, what else do you have? You have people saying they don't need to apologize and protecting them.
Yeah.
And that just opens a whole can of Pandora's boxes. Yeah. I don't know what else to say.
And then, of course, Tumblr, I think, is still definitely around and a problem child, just as it has been.
You know what? Tumblr's tagging system, in my opinion, is the best fandom space thing still.
I agree.
And
I wish it worked on my blog, but I agree.
Yes. I mean, now, don't get us wrong. Tumblr definitely is held together with spit, hope, and dreams.
Yeah.
And you know what? Bless them, but the programmers and the people running Tumblr do know that, and they do make fun of it.
Yes.
Thank you, Yahoo, for taking that loss on all that money and buying Tumblr to keep it alive.
Yeah.
But I think because Tumblr allows you to be able to follow so many different active spaces,
right,
and you can dive in and then step back out and go into something else relatively
right
in the navigation page. Yes, you can do the same thing on Instagram and Twitter, but the algorithm around those, because they make money compared to Tumblr, which does not make money, is totally different, to where the algorithm then caters for you to see the same stuff and kind of keep you in this echo chamber of fandom
that you want to see.
Exactly. Whereas Tumblr, good, bad, and ugly, you get it all.
Yeah.
And I respect Tumblr for that. I really do.
Yeah. As
someone who, like we said earlier, we grew up on blog spaces.
Right.
I love that more than I do getting a more catered to you, for you page stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I still use those websites, obviously. But for me, in terms of fandom consumption, especially if I want to learn more about a certain group or figure out where these shots that I've seen from a music video take place, being able to basically go to a catalog the way Tumblr is, because you can tag everything. I prefer that way more than just scrolling through the same fan cams and with different music behind the background and different slow down times because they're hot. Like, yes, I know they're hot. I'm trying to learn more about other stuff.
Right.
I'm well aware they're hot.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, with this zeroed in, you know, super intense gaze now, you know, it tends to lead to more judgmental viewpoints.
Agreed.
Because, you know, with our experience, I would say in fandom spaces, especially those, you know, more focused online, because all you have is your worded opinion to speak for you.
Exactly.
So judgment on how good fan or bad fan somebody is tends to crop up a lot more.
Agreed. I definitely feel like sometimes I am watching witch trials.
Yes.
When I see how fans are being talked to and how they're being criticized for not doing enough for their group. And
Right.
it's like, hey, does this person enjoy the music?
Right.
Guess what? You're a fan.
Right.
Point blank period. You don't have to buy albums. You don't have to buy anything. Yes, guess what? If you really enjoy it, you're tempted to skew that way.
Yeah.
Just like I love, frogs, so I like frog stuff. Like,
Right.
I love animals, so I love buying animal clothes or animal funny things.
Right.
Because I'm a fan of that stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to typically consume what you're a fan of. But even just listening to it and enjoying the music, you're a fan. You have nothing to prove to anyone,
No.
much less strangers on the internet who will not remember you in 3 years.
Right. Exactly.
And 3 months even.
Yes. And that's the thing.
A lot of it is performative, and not
100%.
because people are bad, but because they feel like there is this peer pressure to conform a certain way to meet the standard of a fan, and it's set by other people that don't know you.
Well, and that's the thing. People get a little snobby, they get a little rude, they get a little mean, and they might make you feel like you're less than because you suddenly don't meet some requirements of what makes a real fan, written on some wall somewhere. So when members of a fandom speak up and they're like, yeah, I didn't like this song, or this album wasn't great,
It wasn't for me.
yeah, they might receive some unfavorable responses from their peers,
Right.
but it's like, is it because they're having a quote unquote unpopular opinion,
Yeah.
which goes against the whole mob mentality idea of a fandom?
Right.
Is it B, because they dare to criticize the idol that's at the
Right.
peak of the fandom at all? Or is it C, because others feel that disliking one or some of an artist's catalog dismisses your entire history that you've had with the artist, or even removes any potential of a future?
And honestly, if anyone is listening to this and gives credence to anything we have to say, all that reeks of and reminds me of is being a young girl in middle and high school and having teenage boys who are fans of the media I was consuming try and quiz or test me on my knowledge to see if I
God.
was a real fan.
I hated that.
Me too. I always felt so not just insulted, but also just, why do I have to sit here and prove myself to you constantly? Why do you even care?
Yeah.
What kind of superiority do you think you're going to gain by being more knowledgeable on something that we are consuming for fun?
Well, and that's the thing too. I hate that term, and I see it thrown around a lot online in fandom spaces. And even like how you brought up high school, how we used to hear it a lot, how you're not a real fan. It's like, what the hell does that even mean?
We heard it all the time. If you are new here or you don't know yet, Ashley and I have been best friends for 15 years, and that goes back to high school. We met in high school. We've been best friends since then. And we were also, both of us, in fandom spaces already. So whenever we met, because I didn't have a bunch of friends that were also in fandom spaces. That was like, that was like a dichotomy, or like just this divided personality I had, where I didn't talk about it with a bunch of people that I grew up with because I knew that they were not into things the way I was with it. And you're just not trying to be a wet blanket or just be annoying, like, hey, you guys, y'all want to talk about Final Fantasy? No one fucking likes Final Fantasy. Shut up. Like, I like Final Fantasy. Okay, whatever. So you, especially back then, it was a different
it was different
culture and fandom structure space, but we would hear it all the time. We would mention, and keep in mind, talking between the two of ourselves, or maybe there's another person who's involved in the conversation, and we're talking about comic books, video games, TV shows, anime, manga, you name it. And lo and behold,
some douchenozzle comes out.
A dude decides to give us their opinion. Baby, your frontal cortex is not even fully developed yet. Don't talk to me. Mine isn't developed yet either, but I'm not going around calling you a fake fan for something, even when I hear you talking about incorrect data points for that fan thing. Why? Because it doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day.
No. That's, that whole thing of like a real fan. And I hear it so much more now. And so like, especially
the gatekeeping just needs to be burned down. Burn the gates down.
And you know what? It's funny because I wasn't in Eastern music fan spaces when I was younger, because that was a part of my life that I tried to like kind of keep for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I really just tucked it away and kept it
because we talked about anime and manga all the time, and I had no idea the music you were consuming. I mean, we both knew that we were consuming some music. We would talk about, you know,
Kill Hannah.
I
love them. Anyway,
I was also just thinking of, you know, like the Kingdom Hearts.
Oh God, yeah. But yeah, so even then I didn't, thankfully, and I feel like thankfully, because you know, seeing the fandoms from back then, and how atrocious they were, you know, I have to say, I'm glad I wasn't partaking in any of that. Right. But even then, it would have been really difficult for me as a Western fan to partake in Eastern music, because it was so locked to Korea.
I was about to say it was very niche.
Yeah, it was so locked to Korea or China or Japan. I mean, Japan was definitely more available to Westerns,
definitely,
because of anime,
absolutely,
and that whole thing. So that was definitely more available. But
I had no idea what was going on with fandom spaces for any of the artists that I like, that I listen to. For Japanese artists, I had no idea.
Yeah, it was definitely way more locked. Like it was definitely harder. So, but once I started getting more involved in fandom spaces, oh God, for Eastern music, was probably a good like 7-8 years ago now. Yeah, it's always been very critical of defining what a fan is, and how like you're not worthy to be so and so's fan, and I just never understood that. Like,
the only time I think that's even fair to say is if you killed that person's family. Like, you should not be a fan. Like, yeah, no, you should not be a fan. You just ruined their life.
Right.
You're a bad person.
It doesn't make sense. Like, the people coming after others for like, oh, you don't stream, you don't vote, you don't do X, Y, and Z, so you don't meet a like base level criteria. It's like, this is not like, I'm not earning points here. Like,
you know what else it reminds me of? This might be a hot take, but I'm gonna stand by it, and I think you're going to agree with me. It reminds me of, I'm going to put it out there, I was raised Catholic. It reminds me of Christians who think that they can buy their way into heaven and act a certain way and think that they are invincible with it because they have earned, so quote unquote, earned brownie points, and you are doing the right steps for it to be excused.
I agree.
Like, okay, so you think if your artist saw how you're treating other people, they would be proud of you?
Right.
You think that that's cool?
Right.
You're going directly against everything that they are talking about in their music in terms of, you know, finding hope to keep going on. Anything that you find a connection with that allows you to continue on in your life and helps you through a hard time. You think that artist would be proud if they saw their fans behaving that way and treating another person that also calls them their fan, especially?
Right. Yeah, that I completely agree with that. Like, yeah, it's like, do you think, if, you know, your oppa showed up, which I hate that people have, like, fetishized that word.
I agree. It's funny for memes, because memes in general are funny, but if we're talking on a real level, though, I agree with you, because it is literally...
It's a literal term of, like, hierarchy.
Exactly.
And people have like completely bastardized that term. I hate it so much. Anyway,
I feel like they've done the same with sensei.
Yes, 1,000%. Or senpai.
Both.
I've only seen senpai. I don't know what you've seen for sensei. Don't get me in that. I don't want to know. Don't take me there.
Okay.
Don't take me there.
I will respect your wishes. Continue.
You live on the gross side of the internet. I don't want to...
To clarify...
I don't want to go there.
To clarify, no, and I totally own up to this. I talk about it frequently. When I was younger, not only was I in fandom spaces, but I was also in the worst dregs of the internet. I was on Rotten.com. I was on...
Cracked.
Certain boards. Yeah, I was on Cracked. I was on certain boards for 4chan as a lurker, just seeing... basically the atrocities of the internet. I grew up consuming that, and do I look back on it and wish that my 11-year-old self was not doing that? probably, but I can't change it.
Yeah.
So
see, that's the difference between she and I was not.
Yeah. And that's why whenever you hear us discuss that, she is absolutely correct. I am in the depths of certain things because I have a different threshold for disgust.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll leave.
I like zip up my scuba gear and spelunking gear, and I'm like, I'm going in. I'll tell you what I find that you need to know about. I'll warn you, okay?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna just like,
I'm the canary in the coal mine. I got us.
Yeah,
I'll jump on that grenade.
We appreciate you for that.
Appreciate your service.
But yeah, so I don't know, that always bothered me, that term of like real fan. And I
agree. As though you don't have your own life or anything, as though you owe it to anyone to have to defend what you like, what you dislike, and what you consume in your own fucking spare time.
True.
Or with your own money.
And then with that being said,
mm-hmm.
having just the audacity of people feeling the need to be like, hey, you don't like EXO, you know, I not the group EXO, but like
example of
XYZ's you know, newest song, you're not a blank, right, insert fandom name here,
right,
like you're not what, and it's like that's like
that
what?
defeats the
like,
whole purpose
not...
of being a fan, in my opinion. And I think you feel the same way.
Yeah.
If I'm a fan of something, if I like something, I like it. There's a lot of things I like. There are things I dislike or it just doesn't mesh well for me or I don't care for, but it doesn't mean that I'm turned off of that artist completely. Sometimes everyone has their own thresholds.
Yeah, yes.
Your mileage may vary. Everyone has certain limits or certain things where if a sound changes too much from a group that you like, or you just you don't feel that connection anymore, guess what? You don't have to be a fan. You're not in it for life.
Right.
And if you are, congrats to you. But guess what? It is not anything that you have to prove to someone else.
Right. And like, I can't tell you how many times I've had music conversations with people and it'll be like just me and that person, and it's not even like just with Libby, because obviously you can tell Libby and I, like, we don't give a shit, like we're gonna say what we think, like, to anybody, right. But like, you know, I'll just be like, yeah, I didn't like that song, or I didn't like that album, and no matter who I'm with, and they'll be like, oh my god, like they'll like lean in almost like it's a secret,
yeah,
and they'll be like, oh my god, I didn't like it either. And they'll like whisper it at, like almost like they're like ashamed of admitting it. It's a dirty
little secret to not be a fan of something for an artist that you like.
Right.
Why?
It's like, what's up with that?
Why? Like, there's plenty of artists and actors. Yes. I'm including actors and artists where I've watched something of theirs because I really like them. And then I'm like, ooh, not it.
Yeah, it could have been better.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And you know
Next
what?
time.
That's okay. Who cares?
Yeah.
In fact, half the time they feel the same way.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's okay.
They're like, oh, that was not my best, but we keep going.
But it's strange to like see that behavior in like real time, where people are like literally ashamed to admit, like, oh yeah, I didn't like that, or they're like leaning in and whispering as if somebody's overhearing, and it's like, bro, it's just you and me. Who's gonna hear?
You know what it reminds me of? And I'm going to use a similar comparison as earlier, or the same one. It reminds me of religious worship, where you there's a certain quote unquote standard that things are held to or accepted at, and if you deviate from the flock, you have to hide it.
Yeah.
So it's like some people really do worship and not just idolize, but like put them on a pedestal, idol their faves, and it's treated as though any deviation from that means you're not getting into heaven with them. As like to just boil it down to the most basics. It reminds me a lot of zealot worship sometimes, and I agree. It can be uncomfortable for others, or at least for me. For me, I'm speaking as myself. It can be very uncomfortable to witness, even though I understand where the energy is coming from. Because I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't simp. I don't, really get into it. I don't I'm not going to act like I don't do those things too. I think the difference is, though, is that I'm also cool with saying point blank, not for me, or I didn't like that, or that's leaving a bad taste in my mouth.
Yes.
And sometimes I might have to think about why I felt that way instead of like, oh, that's interesting. Why did I not mesh with that?
I think there's a difference, and I think this is also where people need to understand. And of course, we're saying this because we feel the whole point of this episode is we feel like people don't. It's not acceptable to talk about this stuff. Like, it's not acceptable to say, hey, this, like, isn't cool. Like, if your fave does something that's a little fucked up or really fucked up.
Right.
Like, it's not acceptable to be like, hey, that's not right. Or that ain't it. Like,
this is a safe space. You can come to us with your grievances. We would love to discuss it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, like, it's like, it's cool to call them out, but with the caveat of fact check your shit. Like, don't go and cancel culture everyone and their mother because so-and-so on an anonymous Twitter said so.
Yeah.
Like, there's one thing if it's legit and there's, proof and sources, and it's one thing. That's one thing. It's another thing if so-and-so misinterpreted something or mistranslated something on purpose.
Source, because I said so, bro.
Yeah.
I saw it on the TikTok.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a completely different thing because, like, look what happened with Tableau.
No freaking joke.
Man's life was in ruins for however many years, and it was all fucking bullshit. So, like, check your fucking facts before you go and write someone off. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to just not like someone, you don't have to like them. Yeah, like, you don't need a reason.
You don't have to submit a 12-point font Times New Roman double-spaced essay on why you are no longer a fan or you don't like that person.
Yeah, sometimes you just grow apart from somebody. You just grow away from them. For some reason, you wake up and you decide, hey, they no longer fit or match my values, and I'm gonna separate from them, and that's fine. Yeah. You don't need to, again, prove it to anybody. You don't need to submit your resignation to a fandom. Like, you don't need to do any of that. You can just make your decision and call it a day.
Yeah.
But, like, it's also, like, not hard to be a nice, kind person, too.
I was about to say, I think a lot of it does stem at the end of the day that there's a certain level of respect that you have to give that person, not as an artist, as a human being.
Right.
And I think if you approach it in that entity and remember that they are people, you can obviously call out people and you can say that they fucked up. You can say point blank, you fucked up, you done goofed.
100%.
You shit the bed on that one. Whatever, insert whatever you want here. But at the end of the day, if you still treat them with a certain level of human dignity and respect, you're not going to be like, we're going to ruin their life and their family's life. Unless, again, they, like, murdered a bunch of people. Or did something, like, super heinous, like human trafficking. Like, you know what?
Garbage.
Yeah.
Throw them away.
Set that person on fire. I don't care.
Throw them away. Like, obviously, we're talking about...
Ren Ishii, tear that bitch apart. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
I don't care for those things, for those extremes. But if we're talking lesser offenses than that, to a certain degree, again, everyone's mileage varies and changes. But if you have a certain level of human respect, and it's very easy to lose that when everything's on the internet because you don't have to actually interact with these people in real life.
Right.
You don't have to actually answer for your actions to a large extent on the internet.
Right.
And it's very easy to get stuck in a hive mind and an echo chamber mob mentality and think it's okay to treat people that way. But on the other end of those accounts, and even just Big Hit, for example, or JYPE, there's real people running those.
Yes.
And those real artists do see things. They have very candidly said it before in the past. So you take that as you will. And if you are cool with them seeing you say that about them, by all means.
And also,
let launch your Twitter fingers.
I was going to say, and also remember, like, they will pursue litigation. Like, they will.
No joke. I mean, and that I think it's fair too, to a large extent, after some of the things that we have seen that you have shown me that have been unfair. I mean, to get deep and sad, let's talk about what's happened to idols who have taken their lives because of things that they see that fans and critics and the world, quote unquote, put out there about them and make them feel like they are so isolated and hated that they have no other recourse.
Yeah.
But that.
You want to talk about being a bad fan? That's a bad fan.
Exactly.
That's a bad fan.
That is a bad fan.
That's a bad fan. That's a bad person.
Exactly. I was about to say that supersedes a lot of things. You really don't care about who you hurt whenever you say something like that. We don't know what others are going through, and that includes idols. Just because they have a more glamorous life than probably 99% of us doesn't mean that they don't struggle with real things. And these companies should pursue litigation with some of the vitriol that is spewed at them sometimes.
100%. And that's where, while we say it's okay to criticize your faves, should it be deserved in the sense of they mess up and they need education?
Absolutely.
It's different from saying go hate on them and, send them violence and send them
encouragement to take their life, or encouragement for bad things to happen to their family or to their animals or to their friends, especially when so much is unsubstantiated, so much of it. I mean, I would say like a lot of the hate that I see on idols, a lot of it is like unproven shit. Unproven. It's all allegations that end up coming out to be false. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so because people react too quickly and don't stop to have critical thinking and do their own research and do their own homework and figure out and make up their own minds. That's all it really comes down to.
That is the kind of dark side of consumerism, because we are so used to having quick, constant updates and immediate serotonin, immediate gratification. With that kind of a culture that we have around the world now, it makes it difficult for these things when serious issues do crop up, or even not totally serious. It can be something that is not necessarily innocuous, but it is not worth someone being harmed over.
Right. Agreed.
Because we're so used to immediate gratification, that also means we are quick for immediate recourse and immediate judgment too. How do we stay that? How do we... And that's something that I even struggle with. There are definitely times where, I mean, I'll use an example we were just talking about. Stray Kids Fort Worth was canceled recently.
Woo!
Okay? Or not, I shouldn't say canceled. I'm sorry. It was postponed.
I was going to say, what a choice of words.
I am very sorry. Let me fix that real quick. I'm sorry. It was postponed.
Yes.
Right now, it is July, 10th?
10th.
It is July 10th. So we are still waiting for an update. They technically just tested positive, so we are still waiting for an update. But at that same token, it does not make fans bad fans for wanting to hear a reassurance from the artist or from the agency that they are actively looking into their options.
Correct. It doesn't make fans bad fans for being upset.
No, it doesn't.
That the the
concerts were
concert was postponed and is in limbo right now. It doesn't make fans bad fans that they were upset that they had money that they've lost, because some fans traveled.
Exactly.
Some fans traveled to, they flew in to either state. They spent money on hotels.
The Atlanta ones, I feel really bad for. They found out the day of. So that does not make those fans, or any of our fans, because we're in the same boat. Yes. We were going to Fort Worth. It does not make us bad fans for wanting to hear reassurance or wanting to know any kind of update, even if it's dregs of just, hey, we are trying to figure it out. But at the same time, I'm not going to send them death threats over it.
Exactly.
Come on, you guys.
Exactly.
Come on, you guys.
Yeah. That's the thing. And I think at the end of the day, my whole wish would be for the whole, like, obviously real fan bullshit to stop. But at the same time, it would be, in order for that to happen, fans need to develop more critical thinking.
I absolutely agree. Because until you have that, to a certain extent, we're going to kind of be treated
as a single entity.
Yeah, not only a single entity, but also, I don't want to use the word childish, but more just like, you have to kind of,
you have to rely,
sugarcoat it. You have to wait until every decision is done. You can't just be candid with things and have a human conversation with it, because everything has to have this wall and this veneer around it, which I understand and is also for their protection too.
Right.
But until you have more people who can see them as human beings, have critical thinking, and allow themselves to make their own decisions, we are going to be seen as a entity, a single entity that has a mob mentality at that.
Well, and that's the thing. And going back to that more critical thinking, like, how many times, using Stray Kids as an example, because we were just talking about them.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do we hear, like, on Chan's Room, oh, I hope Stay loves it, talking about the music they're putting out.
Right.
Well, of course every artist is going to want that.
Yeah.
They want their fans to enjoy the music.
And you can be candid about that.
But also, how many artists want to just make the music they want to make?
Totally.
So then at the same time, it's like, I hope Stay loves it, but then what about the music that you guys want to make? You know what I mean?
And that's how I feel as a fan. And you and I talk about that all the time. If I could ever ask these idols or these people a question and have the opportunity to have something like that, I want to know, what do you like to listen to in your spare time? Like, what do you want to put out?
Yeah.
I want to know, because I like you as an artist, but I also know that this is a business.
Right.
So behind that business veneer, what do you want to do?
Right.
I am very curious for that. And we talk about that all the time. That's something that both of us share.
Yes.
And I think a lot of fans probably share that viewpoint
I hope
too.
so.
I think so.
But that goes against the whole
well, maybe they want a watered down version of it. I want raw,
I want the nitty-gritty.
Uncensored. You know what? Here's a good one. You did get the chance to ask that, and you mentioned Black Dog to Hansei.
I did.
And he said, respectfully, that's not who I am anymore, so I don't have the best viewpoint on it. And you know what?
I loved it.
That is so awesome that you got to have that kind of a tidbit of a conversation where even we joke about it all the time, but it is very interesting that he was able to be so candid with you.
I really
appreciated
appreciated him being so upfront and honest with me about that. I really did.
I would love to have that. I would love to ask any artist that I like or I'm a fan of, and then them just rock my shit and say something unexpected where I'm like, yo, I was not expecting that. I have to reassess
your thought process a little bit.
Yeah. I want that.
Because it really, and if anything, it just added an additional layer for me of enjoyment. And I think if more fans applied that logic to the idea of being like, to the idea that variation in the fandom is a great thing.
Absolutely.
It applies different perspectives, which broadens everyone's horizon.
I was about to say, why do you ever want to live in an echo chamber?
No.
We here are lucky where we live in a melting pot. And with that said, you know what we get? We get a bunch of great fucking food. First of all, let's put that out there. But also, we get exposure to a lot of different, not only viewpoints and perspectives from people who have either immigrated here or they're, upholding things that have been passed down through their family. But you also, I love having someone who has a totally different way of looking at life, or their culture is different from mine, showing me something that I never either considered or I didn't look at it that way. Yeah. Why would I want to live in an echo chamber where everyone sounds like me? That's my head. I already live in that. Right. Why? Exactly. I'm in the real world right now.
Yeah, like that's the thing I never understood, is like seeing all these people getting into like beefs on Twitter about, oh, I didn't like this, about like, oh, well then you're a bad fan, or you're you're not doing, or so and so wouldn't appreciate it or whatever. It's like, but they probably want this feedback. Yeah. If they're seeing a majority of fans didn't like something, or if they're seeing that a majority of fans are too scared to say how they really feel about music, how are they going to know
what's actually good?
Yeah, or like what fans actually want to hear if they're really making music to please their fans.
Right.
I mean, hopefully they're making music that they're loving and enjoying and they actually want to make. Like, that's the real hope that I have.
True.
I hope.
Because otherwise it means you're stuck in a situation where you're not enjoying yourself at all. And that's not good.
No.
I don't want an artist of any kind to be doing something that they slog through.
And I mean, look, take Hansei, for example, right? Like, we just talked about how I had that great interaction with him. And I'm going to be 1,000% candid. I did not enjoy his solo album.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy it. It's just, the music was not for me. Right. But it was 1,000% for him.
And that's what matters.
All that matters. And that makes me love it, even though I don't enjoy listening to it. I love the album.
Right.
And I love it for him.
Right.
And you can tell how much he enjoyed it. You can tell how much he needed to make that album.
Yeah.
And how, like, when I talked to him about it, he was just so happy to talk about it. Like, it was just a great, and having that extra layer of experience with him and hearing an additional, thing coming from him about that album made me love it even more. Again, even though musically it didn't appeal to me.
Right. Because it touches on what you and I have discussed before in previous podcasts and also in videos. You and the artist get to share a moment where one of you is seen, or both of you are seen. Right. And an artist making themselves vulnerable is them trying to reach out to others to let them be seen and to also make themselves be heard.
Right.
So even if it doesn't mesh for you, but the artist got to use their own voice to talk about what they wanted to talk about, that's awesome. Yeah. That's a success.
Fantastic.
It's not stripped down or made for public consumption, or like mass consumption.
It was not at all made for mass production.
Good for him.
No, not at all. It was a very niche, very specific sound. If anything, you would love it.
Jot that down myself. I'm saying that to myself.
Yeah, no.
Take that down.
You will love his solo album. You will love it.
I will check it out. I promise you I'll check it out.
You really will. Like,
and for everyone listening, Ashley has so many things that she has like on my repertoire to go through and listen. It's literally just like as I'm chipping away at it. And Ashley is too. Yes. Like, that's not saying that I'm alone in this regard.
No.
This 25K.
Never gonna.
I'm gonna change your name in my phone. To 25K.
And it's just gonna change every time it gets more.
Yeah. Miss $275,000.
Oh my god. Dollar. Wow, I wish.
I wish too. I'd retire and be like, what do you want me to do? No.
But I think that, I mean, we could honestly just go on and on about
I know, I was
this.
about to say, we could literally talk about this all day. Hence why it's a good steep episode, because it is something that we have a lot of thoughts on. And for whatever it's worth,
hopefully y'all enjoyed this one. Our next one, we will hopefully have a little more structure to it.
Yeah.
This was kind of our, first spitball on the Gets Deep episode. I think our next episode, we're going to, of course, have our mini. We're back with the regular podcast schedule, so our mini will come out. I think this one is going to be Luminous.
It is. Yes, ma'am.
So we're
I did not forget. Don't you worry.
She's like, I'm ready.
Look,
Steven,
are you listening?
Steven.
No, actually, part of the reason why I am so stoked about Luminous, as Ashley knows, is they are the first group that I have gotten into pre-fandom name, but also been consuming every single song of theirs too.
Yes.
And again, what makes a fan? Who cares?
Yes.
But for me, in terms of me really liking them and then getting to watch them grow and getting to watch them get a fan name.
Yeah.
And they don't have that much music out yet. Like, this is the first time for me since getting into this stuff. This is the first group I clicked with like that to where it has, like, I'm getting to watch them grow.
Yeah.
to a huge extent. I'm watching other groups grow, of course. There's tons of 4th gen groups I love that I get to watch grow too, of course, because I'm 30 and they're, children compared to me. But no, they're all adults. But
yeah.
But this is the first group I've been able to get to from the get-go.
To start with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And watch. And
they're like your starter Pokemon.
That's what I'm saying. That's why they're so exciting for me.
Yeah.
That's why I really... And I love Luminous anyways because they're very talented. But anyways.
Yeah. We'll definitely go in deeper, obviously, in our mini. But, yeah. So, like, hopefully to kind of tie those together... if you become a fan of Luminous after our mini episode in not next week, the week after, yes, whenever you listen to that, if you happen to become a fan of Luminous, then even if you become a fan that day, you're still a real fan.
Exactly.
You are still a real fan, okay?
Yeah, this is just exciting for personal reasons for me.
Yes.
It does not mean that I think I'm a better or bigger fan.
No. We are all real fans, and that's all that matters, is the point that we're trying to make. It doesn't matter.
And if you don't want to be a fan of someone anymore, guess what? You don't have to. And you get to make that decision at any point in time for any reason whatsoever. You don't have to justify it to other people. And... you also don't have to go online and just bash them. I think that's the most important part. Because I see people who do that. Like, I used to be a fan of X, Y, and Z. And again, unless they do something pretty heinous.
Right.
That is the caveat.
Right.
I understand that. I understand the betrayal you would feel if you found out that this person actually did some really crossing the line bad shit.
Yeah.
That is okay to feel that way.
100%.
We are talking strictly about, hey, I realize I don't really care for this type of music or genre or sound anymore.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I just kind of fell out of liking this person.
Yeah.
You don't have to go online and bash them.
Yeah.
Treat them with a certain modicum of respect, please.
Because at one point you did like them. They were what you wanted at one point.
Exactly.
So, yeah, just kind of like give yourself that respect, like past you that respect, right? Of like, because you were once them that you were bashing on, like the fans. So yeah, just it's $0 to be kind, y'all. That's all. But we're not your moms.
Yeah, so do whatever you're going to do anyways on the internet. You are unleashed on the internet. I just hope people treat each other kind because we have no idea what each other are going through, and we're in free spaces, you guys. So
things are finally starting to look up a little bit. COVID is it's not gone, obviously, but it's starting to slow down in that sense. Like things are.
It's not June 2020 anymore, guys. We are not in the trenches what we used to be. And that's why we're able to go to concerts this year. Exactly. That's why we're able to have more content this year compared to 2020 and 2021, where it was more, behind the screen only.
Exactly.
But with all of that comes a certain responsibility too.
Right. But that's my point. Like things are just starting to look up a little bit. Things are getting, we're on the other side of it finally. Like we're able to travel again, and we're able to live a happier, brighter life. So let's take that positivity and really harness it.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, the past 2 years, it taught us that anything can happen at any fucking time.
Literally anytime. And we already knew that ahead of time because you and I have already, lost people. We've gone through stuff and we've been there, and also it's happened before. We could be there for each other. But especially the past 2 years, that changed everything in the world. That turned the entire world upside down at the same time. It really did.
It was not just personal tragedies that we were experiencing. It was a mass casualty tragedy that we all witnessed. So with all that, let's try and be a little kinder to each other. And that includes me. I have to remind myself every day. Someone cuts me off in traffic and I have to remind myself not to be a, person.
A harpy.
Yeah, exactly. I have to remind myself,
yeah.
Who knows what that person's going through? For all I know, they just got a horrible phone call, or they just had a bad day, or hey, they didn't even notice me. Right. And it's not even 99% of the time, it isn't even about you.
Right.
So with all of that, just try and be kind where you can, or don't. I mean, I just think you should.
Yeah, exactly. We'll we'll help each other be more positive.
Yes.
So on that note, being positive, we've listened. So we're gonna just do a brief catch up at the end of these gets deep episodes. We're going to
That's what she said.
I hate it here. We're gonna do a
pun counter.
I hate it. We're gonna catch up on the previous months, like our normal episodes, how we would normally do, but we're gonna do it like a super speed mode.
We're gonna speed run through comebacks.
Exactly. We're gonna do like what came out the previous month and do our reviews on it, and then we're gonna kind of review what's coming out in the month of July. But
we're gonna review the stuff we liked in June, and I'll be real frank with y'all. I'm literally going into my stuff right now to look up what did come out in June.
Well, the good news is...
Oh, that's right. Ashley's a research hoe. That's correct.
I had to go get my journal.
Lord, please, I took notes already. And that's why... That's not the one reason why I love you, but that is a reason why I love you.
The good news... Well, okay, so the good news is, for those of y'all who want to just end this podcast already, but you're, too nice, and you, think we'll somehow know that you turned it off already, we won't. But please keep listening. We only... Whatever we watched in June or listened to in June was, what we reacted to.
Yeah, truly.
So...
Truly.
We haven't had the time to actually sit down and, listen to a lot in June. Technically, Face the Sun... But that came out in May. But we listened to it June 1st on the way home from Wusong. So we're counting it.
That's correct.
So.
Which I really enjoyed being able to have a listening experience with you like that for that album.
It was fantastic.
It really was. And you know what? This is even more months ago, but we got to do the same thing for Maniac when we were going to P1 Harmony in Houston.
And we also did the same thing with T by T.
Yes, we did. And listen. It is really fun to do it that way.
It is.
If you can do listening parties, I encourage it.
Yeah.
Not that everyone is lucky like I am, where my best friend is also super into it. But if you have the ability to do listening parties, you should do it. It's fun.
And you know what? I'm honestly not even against the idea of doing listening parties with you guys if we could figure out a way.
Yeah, for real. Oh, like a YouTube live or something.
Yeah, like a live listening party or something.
Oh, that would be fun.
We could totally figure out a way to do it. If you guys would be interested at all, you can absolutely let us know on our social medias, and we'll figure out a way to do that if that's something you guys want to do.
I would love to do that.
But, so I think the only one we're going to talk about is Face the Sun.
Yeah.
Is 17. Because that's the only one we really...
As an entire whole. There's tons
as a whole.
There's tons of singles and there's tons of drops that we listen to.
Title tracks. But it wouldn't be fair to...
No, agreed. I could not rightfully sit here and tell you that I listened to the entire album and this is what I liked about it. Well, and it would be inaccurate.
Well, and also it would be a little redundant considering we reacted to the singles.
I agree with you. Yeah.
So Face the Sun, banger, no skip album.
Let me put it to you this way. I was so happy that we got to listen to Face the Sun after we thought we were going to get caught in a tornado the day before. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That was 6.
It was Wusong.
Oh, boy. You guys. That teaser.
Yeah, right. For our
vlog.
CIX vlog. That's going to be coming out very soon. Actually, probably in the next week or so.
Let me tell you. You'll see for yourself. I won't tell you. Continue, Ashley. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pull up the album just so I can make sure I have
track list.
Yeah,
totally understand that. I can't memorize everything in order.
Fuck if I can. Sorry. Also, we're watching my cat be an asshole.
What's new?
Okay,
they are cats.
So obviously, I literally love every track.
Darling, we knew ahead of time.
Yeah, so Darling obviously was the pre-release single, their English track.
Yes.
And Hot, we did a reaction for. I fell out of my chair.
Gorgeous.
Goodbye.
Fun fact behind the scenes for you guys. My brother keeps playing Hot. He and I recently moved in together, like literally last week.
Yeah. It's been a time.
Technically, he was living on my couch for 2 months. Anyways, no fault of his own. It's just funny because it's such a good song that someone who does not really know of any K-pop besides what he is listening to in the car with me or at home keeps going back to Hot.
I love it.
So what that tells me, though, also for them, not that it's their primary concern, but it's got a lot of great crossover.
Right.
Listening.
Yes.
As well.
That's someone who's not a fan necessarily.
You know what else? He has actually pulled up Shadow before too.
Ooh, good. Shadow's
Sorry, we're coming to that, but
yeah. Shadow's great. I mean, for me, my all-time favorites on this album are definitely Hot, Don Quixote.
I love Don Quixote. I claim that as a joke because the name Don Quixote, I was like, oh, well, I mean.
Done.
I got that. And I'm glad that I claimed it. And we know the ultimate fave on this one for you, babe.
I don't want to talk about it.
I will. So, don't worry, I'm here. Are we going to continue going in order or are we going to bounce around?
We can bounce around.
Okay, cool. Ash, absolute banger.
It's so good.
Absolute banger. So good. So fun to listen to.
It's so good.
It's constantly stuck in my head, and that initial build-up. Same with Don Quixote.
Don Quixote's so good.
The initial build-up for Don Quixote, because I also finally listened to this in order with headphones on.
Oh.
In my car, we listened to it, of course, in a car.
Yeah.
Listening to it with headphones on.
It's another experience.
I vastly prefer it. There are certain songs, of course, that you just gotta really blast in a car. But I love listening to the hidden surprises in the back of the track that I can't hear on car speakers.
I agree. I felt that way about March.
Same.
Listening to March with headphones on.
Domino also surprised me. There were certain things in the background, especially after the first bridge, where I was like, whoa,
yeah.
Wait a minute.
And then If You Leave Me makes
Gorgeous.
me want to walk into traffic.
I told Ashley I think this was a song that they made, the leaders wrote as a threat against the other members of 17. Like, if you leave me, because if is caps. Yeah. If you try and leave me, if you try and leave this group, that was a threat. It was like one of those songs where it sounds really bright and sweet, but there's an undercurrent. Like, I can imagine them playing it for them and they're like, if you leave me, dead to me.
Yeah. Well,
it's a joke. I really do think it's a sweet song, but I classified it as a threat initially, and I'm sorry, my brain's going to keep it in that classification. That's on me, though.
I mean, literally almost every single song on this one is like an all-time favorite.
Shadow?
Obviously, yeah, Shadow for sure. I mean, obviously, like for me, Domino and Bout You, I still love them. Obviously, I have them favorited on my list.
Yeah.
I will not skip them. It's a no skip album, but I'm going to pick Hot, Don Quixote, March, Shadow, If You Leave Me, or Ash first. Like,
agreed.
Those are just
I agree with you.
Those are my beacons.
Those were the ones that massage my brain really well, and that's what my brain's gonna go to. Even though, like you said, if it comes up, I'm gonna be like, oh, pleasant surprise. Let's listen to it.
Yeah, I'm not skipping it. But it's funny because in the initial medley for the teaser medley, I did not like March. I did not like the sound of it. And I was like, oh, well, I
remembered because we were actually pulling over to get gas, and you actually said as we were getting, like, as I was pulling up to the pump, you said, I'm actually really surprised that this is March.
Yeah, I was like...
because I didn't listen to the medley. I was turning off the car, and I was like, what do you mean? What is surprising about it? I didn't listen to the medley. I had no idea going into it. It was like, what did it sound like originally?
Yeah, I was like, what? But no, and this is also, I think, their first full-length album where they didn't have any unit tracks.
Yeah.
So...
Which is interesting, because considering the repackage has a leader.
I'm wondering, I didn't pay much attention. I'm going to be honest. I didn't pay much attention to the repackage new tracks.
I'll look now.
It makes me wonder if that's where all the unit tracks are.
Oh my God, please. I love...
And
you know me.
Yes.
Performance unit tracks
Get you
me
every time.
Every time.
And same thing with me with hip hop unit.
Well, but I was about to say that's acting like as though If I doesn't just come and sit on my trachea anytime it
like,
comes on.
Slit your throat. Yeah.
If
dude,
I is a repeat track for me. But Highlight.
Oh yeah, Highlight is living inside your body.
Highlight is me with my headphones on, crying with my arm in the air.
Libra Moon.
Yeah, Libra Moon. Just, yes. Yeah. I love Highlight. Same with
Lily Ayabai.
Thank you so much. I cannot pronounce that.
I see her struggle every time, and she kind of looks at me with these like pleading eyes, and she's like,
my mouth does not like that word, nor does it like Dejata.
You did it!
Oh my god. Mark that down. That is the first time I pronounced that correctly.
Yes! Oh my god.
There is hope for me yet.
It's because of all those Duolingo Korean lessons.
Look, I've tried speaking into Papago and also into Duolingo saying annyeonghaseyo, and it scalps me every time. It's like untranslatable.
Sing annyeonghaseyo.
Annyeonghaseyo. Like the banjos in your voice are too much.
Too much.
I'm gonna go look up that repackage right now. I have not forget.
And then while she's doing that, the July comebacks that are listed currently, or that have already happened, since like Libby said, it's already July 10th when we're recording. We're recording a little late.
But we're doing it.
And we're
doing the damn thing.
Getting back on track, damn it.
That's right.
But the July comebacks that have been announced and or have already happened that we're geeked about. Let's see. I know obviously we're excited for the repackage for 17.
Yes.
Because Cheers is a fucking bop.
It is the sister track to Ash.
100%. It makes me want to cry.
To answer our earlier question, that is the only unit track.
Wow!
Because the other one is going to be Circles, which is the first track. World is their title track for Sector 17.
That's right, World. That's right.
And then Falling Flower, the Korean version, is the
we know it's a group.
Fourth track.
Right.
Counting Cheers, of course.
Right.
Cheers is actually number 4, but fourth track that is new to the repackage.
Got you.
So there we go. We got our question answered.
Got you. Wow. Okay, I love that leader line is our only
I
unit.
do too.
Cool.
I mean, again, I am a slut for performance unit tracks, but I do think the leader unit deserves it, considering the last time we had one was Change Up,
and that was Teenage, and that was back 2017.
So this is deserved.
Long overdue.
It's what we deserve.
Long overdue. Okay, so July comebacks, I wrote them down. I know Libby hasn't had a chance to look at a lot of them, so I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of her gasping.
Yeah, because again, I moved last week. So outside in the Texas sun, it was over 110 degrees.
Yeah.
I have not paid much attention to things.
Yeah.
Work with me, people. I like that I'm defending myself. Again,
I know.
What
as
makes
if
a real
nobody's,
fan?
I was going to say, as if anybody's judging you, except they are. Well, the ones on Twitter are.
The ones on Twitter are, but you know what? They can eat my ass. Anyways. Hayes! Wait, I already knew that. In hyphen, I do remember that.
We do,
In hyphen, excuse me. I always add an H.
Everybody, in their head, I think everybody does. It's like when you say Wednesday, when you write it out, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, okay. Ooh, wait a damn minute. Okay, winner.
Mm-hmm. They've already come back.
Vivas?
How I can't remember.
Vivas? Vives?
Yes.
Vive le Vivas?
They just came back.
They just did. Iris?
They actually used to be Red Square. They re-debuted.
Oh, they pulled a TO1. Yes. MCND, yes. Espa, knew that. Changa?
Yes, she's coming back with her second full-length album.
She did. Chobong?
That's A-Pink's unit, which I'm excited to see.
Woo Jin Young?
He's
delicious.
It's his second solo album. He's from D1's.
Nice. SF9 and
Niziu.
Thank you.
They're the Japanese JYPE group.
Oh,
Girl
okay.
group.
Okay. Billy.
And
Hyel. Hobie. We knew. We knew. Yeah. Itzy. Oh.
Yeah, Itzy's Checkmate album comes out.
Fuck. That's a good fuck, by the way.
Yes.
Hyolen. I knew, but it's still exciting to see. And it's happening the same day as 17.
Yes.
It's happening right after
Yes.
T by T.
Literally the day after T by T.
I'm going to be at work, you fucking hoes. Stacy.
Yes.
P1 Harmony.
Do you see?
Great guys.
I was going to say, do you see? Our boys are coming back.
Listen, people do not give Great Guys enough credit, especially Illusion. Illusion. Like, every fucking time that song comes on,
we're gonna have to do a mini about Great Guys.
For real.
For real.
For real. People do not talk about Great Guys, and I am surprised by it.
Yeah.
Frankly. Purple Kiss! That's right. I did see that. Oh my god. I compartmentalized it, but I did see it. And Zico!
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, July's got some fucking bangers.
Yeah, this is just the current lineup. I'm sure they're gonna add more, of course, by the time this goes up, but this is a lot to be excited for in July.
That is a lot.
I know I'm stoked for Itzy, Hyolen, Stacy, P1, Great Guys, Purple Kiss, Zico, Chungha,
Oh my god.
Woo Jin Young.
Hyolen, I'm very excited for.
She's bringing back the whale tail is what it looks like on the cover of
Oh my god. Did she watch Degrassi recently?
Shade.
Is it shade or is it respect? I love Degrassi. Degrassi was a big part of middle school for me, at least for 2 years.
Same.
Yeah. Oh my god. Hell yes! You know what? She can do that.
Ice.
She can absolutely pull that off. And you know what? Color scheme wise, it looks really great.
No,
with
it
that
does.
ice blonde hair.
No, she looks fantastic.
Oh my god, the nails matching the whale tail. I'm here for this. I'm so excited.
And she's got that like super blunt bang.
Girl, that's reminding me of me in 2012 when I had my bangs. I got bangs. Oh, girl.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know which one I would want more album-wise for photo concepts.
Yeah, I think those are the two concepts that we're getting to.
I mean, I think the icy one is the one I'm leaning towards because gorgeous. Oh my god.
Yeah, we're gonna die.
Sorry, y'all. I'm having a reaction journey right now.
We're gonna die. So, but yeah. Oh, and so those are the July comebacks, and I think we're about to sign off. So we will throw out our recommendations.
Oh yeah.
So,
honestly, I'm gonna do recommendation I mentioned earlier. Illusion, Great Guys.
Oh, there you go.
Go check it out.
There you go.
For real. I cannot tell you enough about that song. Surprised the crap out of me.
It's really
you played
good.
it for me just on a playlist one time. Like, it wasn't even something that she went out of her way to show me, and I literally kind of threw my hand on the table and I was like, "Who is this?
Yes.
What is this song?
I think
Why haven't you shown me?"
It was literally, yeah. I was like,
"Oh, girl, why'd this get you so much?" I mean, it's good, but she was kind of surprised at my reaction.
well, that, but also I was like,
but you didn't even go out of your way that time to
No.
show me, like you have with other artists who deserve it. Like, you know, who you're like, look, people don't talk about them like they should. You should really check them out. Like MC&D, for example, you've done that
Yes.
with me for, there's many groups. There's many groups, but that one wasn't even one that you, in that moment, were set on showing me.
Yeah.
It just came up on the playlist, and I was like, bitch, who is this? Bitch, what else have they put out?
it has a music video.
It does. We watched it.
Okay, good.
No, I remember us watching it.
Good.
That and or Absinthe by Punchinello. I'm obsessed with that fucking song so much, and I really wish he did more hard hitters like that. I'll get off my soapbox, though.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you. I technically did 2 recs.
Okay. So, well, I was going to say, normally we would do a content rec and a music rec, but since content-wise, we haven't really been available, we'll just do 2 music recs.
That works.
Okay. So one music rec I will do is Homesick by Soulstar.
We have listened to that song. That is a good song.
That's one of my favorites of all time.
I need to add that. There's so many songs and groups that Ashley has shown me that I just haven't added to my playlist yet, but then I'll remember in passing and I'm like, oh shit, you're right.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorites. And then I will go ahead and I'm going to be that bitch and I'm going to recommend I want to make sure I get the title right. Why Don't You Stay by Jeff Satur.
That's a good.
I feel like I'm butchering his last name because he's Thai. So I apologize, Jeff, for fucking up your name. I promise I'll get it right one of these days.
Watch. It's like that's exactly how he pronounces it. We like listened to an interview and it's exactly how he says it.
God. He definitely says it way prettier than I do because his accent, his Thai.
I mean, he's got a gorgeous voice.
Oh, his voice makes me...
His larynx is nice.
Yeah, accurate. It makes me melt. But yeah, so those are my 2 recommendations.
Nice.
And I think we're going to go ahead and jump off. And we'll see you guys in the next episode, normal episode next month, and our next mini in just a week or so.
Yay.
So until then, guys,
thank you so much for listening, and thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
And listening to any of our soapboxes that we have done.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye.
Bye.